got a nice package here, nice little bag from Apple. Well, I mean, it was purchased from Apple. Apple did not send it to me. That sort of explains the reason why this is coming a little bit late. Inside of this bag, I have the remaining iPhone 12 Pro Max colors and models, as well as all of the iPhone 12 minis. I did do a video on one iPhone 12 Pro Max. The Max! I haven't looked at the mini at all outside of some really early mock-ups that I had looked at on behalf of the case company, later case, when I was kind of like sizing it up. Anyways, this is my first exposure to Apple's smallest iPhone in a really long time. And I also want to quickly mention, I do have the screen protectors. These are the Gorilla Glass screen protectors for the mini model and the Max model. I'm not sure if they're gonna be in stock at the time you're watching this, but if you wanna see these installed, go watch my original iPhone 12 unboxing video. These are crazy simple to install, and some people even tell me they feel better than the original screen, so that's kinda nice. All right, so minis, what do we have? The green and the red, white, black, and blue. So the mini colors mirror the colors of the regular iPhone 12, and then of course when we step up to the Pro Max, we have the Pro colors, the Pacific Blue, Gold, Silver, and Graphite, which is the model that I'm currently using in the form of the regular iPhone 12 Pro non-Max. Now, will I change over? It's quite possible, but I have been kind of enjoying a slightly smaller phone because I've been on the Max models of Android devices now for the past year, and probably even previous to that, scaling all the way up to, say, the Z Fold 2 from Samsung. That's the one that I was using, and I'm kind of missing that phone, to be honest with you. I was kind of getting into the Fold realm in a way, but there is something nice about scaling things down as well, which gives you greater one-handed functionality. But I'm gonna go out and just make a little claim here. Considering the fact that much of the globe is still in some form of lockdown, single-handed functionality, at least for me, is slightly less important right now because I'm at home a lot, or I'm here, and the in-between spaces where you have to quickly check in on your phone, like maybe on a public transport or something like this, are happening less frequently, at least for me. So the argument for the small phone, slightly less appealing than it might be if the world was fully opened up and I'm over in the restaurant and I'm making orders and I'm tapping and I'm doing the whole thing more frequently. Anyway, nonetheless, people are very excited for this mini model, and I can see why. There's just not a lot of options. If you do make the choice that you're a small phone person, how do you get a flagship in 2020? Most of the manufacturers aren't taking care of you, so I'm glad Apple has created this option and given those people something to choose from. You can, of course, let me know in the comments. If we take the money out of the equation, we just talk about scale. If we take the feature set out of the equation, which is the more desirable scale to you? You can see the significant difference here between the Max model and the mini model. All right, so let's do one of each real quick. I'm gonna do blue for blue. We're gonna do the mini blue versus the Pacific Blue of the Pro Max. Now, you're obviously well aware of these unboxing experiences. You may have even seen me unbox 100 units of the regular iPhone 12 in this very studio. With some dramatic echo and all the rest of it. So let's kick it off with the mini here. Oof, simple stuff. Now, of course, since it's a non-pro model, it's a 2-camera setup on the back. However, for many people, that's gonna be sufficient. That is a tiny phone, my goodness gracious. I can fully grip around it, very reminiscent of previous generation, far older generation iPhones, or the more recent iPhone SE that came out, I guess, this year. This is in that same wheelhouse, maybe even a slightly smaller, however, better screen to body ratio than that old design because we have a more modern look on the front, slightly higher price tag as well. Let me go ahead and boot this up. Now, one thing to mention, because Apple has this notch at the top, on a smaller phone, it's taking up slightly more of your real estate, a higher percentage of your overall screen size. So in that sense, your screen to body ratio, let's say, is diminished a little bit on the Mini, but it's still a huge step up from what you would see on the SE, for example. That is, wow, I see why people are handling this and getting excited, because I feel so confident holding it. If phones were just phones and not have completely become media consumption devices, primary devices, work devices, then this is obviously a better thing because you hold it confidently, it takes up less space in your pocket, it's lighter and all the rest of it. But see, the problem comes in the fact that many people are skipping over the traditional computing devices like laptops and computers and even TVs to a certain extent and watching everything on their phones. And that's the main drawback here. If I sit back on a couch and I'm just kind of holding this up here, full screening it, I mean, you can't argue that it's going to be as good of an experience as a larger display like this, or even something crazy like the Z Fold 2. All right, other items inside the package. No more power brick. We already know this from the other models that we've seen unboxed here on the channel. Type-C to a lightning connector. You will need to bring your very own power brick to the party. This is the power brick that I've been using from Anker. It is the Nano, and believe it or not, this thing is packing in 20 watts, which is the same amount of power as the first party power adapter that Apple expects you to purchase to go with this, because you don't have one included in the box. And this one's actually cheaper. I believe there's a discount down in the description. Anker has been a sponsor of mine, and this is my favorite power brick as it stands right now. It's incredibly tiny. In fact, it's the same size or very similar in size to the 5-watt Apple power adapter you may be familiar with, except delivering 20 watts. Also in the package, we have our SIM tool as well as the Apple sticker. Single sticker has to fit inside the smaller box. So there is that vibrant blue available only on the standard models, non-Pro models. That's the Pacific blue. So, a much different take, and as I referenced in my original Pro Max, 12 Pro Max video, this camera module is just enormous comparatively. It's enormous even compared to the camera module on the regular iPhone 12 Pro, and it's not the same camera. And of course, it's the first year where you have a significant difference between Pro models. If you go to the Max one, it's not just a bigger battery and a bigger screen, but you've actually got a different camera setup. Now, there have been some people that have said, I don't see a big difference between the performance of both of them. Others can notice it. Myself, I do notice a little bit of a difference. It's not a huge leap. However, I can see a customer out there wanting to have the greatest Apple phone from a technical perspective, and on paper and in use, that's probably going to be the Max model, but you do have to go for this enormous phone. And not only is it enormous in scale, also weight. This, especially when you go from the Mini model, it feels like a whole different thing. It feels like a whole different device. This thing feels like an iPad next to this. So all that confidence I was talking about holding this little one kind of goes away holding this big one. However, the advantages should be pretty obvious. Not only is it that camera, not only is it the bigger display, but also there's going to be a bigger battery in there. Now this one, the Max model, but all Pro models as well, have this surgical stainless steel exterior. This one is coated in this kind of nice blue color, bit of a fingerprint magnet over here. And it's actually a strange place in which the non-Pro models of iPhone 12s have an advantage in that the aluminum exterior doesn't attract nearly as many fingerprints. However, it also doesn't look quite as luxurious. Let's go ahead and boot this one up. The only difference with the Apple sticker is that the space on which it's being stuck to for shipping is larger. Okay, so that is one Mini, that is one Max, and I'm gonna just go ahead for the sake of it and throw the regular 12 Pro in there. And you know what? Why don't I just complete the family tree here and throw a regular iPhone 12 in there as well? That is the entire Apple family tree, showcased actually for the very first time on this channel. As you can tell, between the regular 12 and 12 Pro, the scale is not an issue. I mean, they're the same thing. So The real question here is the scale difference between these two on the far ends, the Mini and the Max. Having this many options kind of makes it a little bit more complicated being an iPhone user or a potential iPhone upgrader, because if you want the most portable model, you give up some features. And if you want the biggest model, well, you're forced to take all the features and the price tag associated with it. If you want the entry-level price point, you're all the way over here. On the small guy, these must be very difficult decisions to make in the office, in the boardroom, trying to figure out where and how to align each model. And then on top of that, you had the complexity of the release schedule, where the 12 was available first, and then this Mini and the Max came at a later date. So those that were super enthusiastic may not have wanted to wait around for these extra options. All right, so let's go ahead and just unbox the remainder. We now have the Pro Max here in the graphite. That's a kind of nice color. This is what I've been using, obviously, with the later case. I find that it's just the best accent color when you have a little bit of the graphite stainless steel poking through on the bottom, or where the buttons are, or up on the top. Believe it or not, when designing this case, I was very specific about how this bottom piece fit in. And in previous versions or prototypes early on, this would wrap around a little bit of the bottom of the phone. However, when you hold a phone, especially a bigger phone, your pinky takes the brunt of the weight of the phone. And if any case comes around that edge, it's poking into your pinky finger. So I took that into consideration over there. So if I do step up to the Max model, I'm likely gonna pick the graphite just for that reason. So the way that it kind of meshes with the case. And if I wasn't gonna use a case, then this would be a tougher toss-up for me for a selection. I might go with the blue, the Pacific Blue. All right, let's go ahead and unbox the remaining Minis and Maxes so we can get a glimpse at the entire inventory. Next up, we have the green Mini. And this is kind of a nice one to compare because we have it right beside the regular iPhone 12. So that gives you a sense there of your options if you choose the Easter green, as Kirk likes to call it. Red, product red, which isn't really red, but more of a, I don't know, it's almost coral, to be honest with you. Plain old black. And white. Which, right now, next to this table, has a kind of pinkish hue to it for some reason. And then we have two more of the Pro Max in the gold. This probably wins the title for the most luxurious color combination. And then the last one of the bunch is the silver. Which is essentially the white model, and you can see the difference when you compare the two whites. White.
How is that even white?
This is pink. This almost looks pink next to this. We would definitely aim at this white for a realistic white as opposed to this one, but that's Apple's decision. This looks very icy and cool, and this one obviously trends a little bit more warm, a little bit more red. And also, I sort of feel like, and again, I've of course featured these with the non-Max model, but now I'm starting to wonder which is the full luxury pick. Is it the gold and tan here? This one also feels very fancy. Also gonna be the biggest fingerprint magnet of the bunch with the plain stainless steel exterior. Now that makes a tremendous number of total iPhones unboxed here on Unbox Therapy this particular generation. I mean, it's pretty wild, to be honest. We had the, well, of course, the initial video, the initial unboxing video, which was every iPhone 12 and 12 Pro. Then there was the 100 iPhone 12 unboxing video. Then you had a Pro Max unboxing video, which was a single unit. And now today, we have every single Mini and Max unboxed, and I'm just gonna align them. I got rid of the regular 12 there, so So now that we've seen all of the iPhones for 2020 unboxed here, I'm curious what your selection will be. I'm gonna keep it relatively boring, as you know. As I mentioned, I like to stay in the gray tones for a variety of reasons. So for me, it's probably still gonna be a pick between what I'm currently using, which is the regular 12 Pro, and then this guy over here, which is the 12 Pro Max. I'll probably test out both, but I gotta be honest with you, it's a little bit exciting, this Mini, for some reason. I just picked this thing up. I set this up, I'm using this particular device just for a second here, and I understand to a certain extent some of the excitement over this because there's a novelty factor. Phones have been scaling up, getting bigger for so long now. We just get used to this idea to take a step backwards. There's a sense of nostalgia that goes with it where, I don't know, am I imagining a better time in my life? A younger man, not better, but just a different time? Am I traveling in a time machine here? Because it feels like a smartphone from the past, so there's a kind of comfort there, but at the same time, it's different than what you've been doing. Trends, this is what happens, and now it's happening in smartphones. And as I mentioned, I'm glad it exists as an option, but are people gonna shift away from the big phones en masse? Are you guys in the audience going to give up your enormous phone and possibly sacrifice your media consumption in exchange for something so comfy, so cozy, so nostalgic? It's possible. Now, one of the other benefits of having such a tiny device is when you are creating stuff, when you are using the camera application, if you're really serious about photos and video, you probably wouldn't gravitate towards the non-Pro model anyways. But if you're okay with the performance here, as you can see for both photo and video, this is gonna be your most comfortable hold. I mean, one-handed, even two-handed, all the buttons are very accessible and you just feel super confident holding it in your hand regardless of how you're going to be shooting a photo. So it benefits from that security, from that grip. The camera department benefits a little bit too. Now the other example of this would be typing. So single-handed typing functionality, whether you use swipe or otherwise, it's obviously going to be better here. The quick brown fox. Again, I can type with one hand on the Pro or on the regular iPhone 12, but this just lets me get to the opposite side of the screen far easier. And the same thing goes just for tapping different sections of the screen. So whether it be icons over on the other side, and I suppose I think I have fairly average hands, but if you had even smaller hands, then this particular feature would be accentuated further. So it's actually a really difficult decision this year for potential iPhone buyers. This has a lot going for it. The cheaper price tag, the cheapest price tag of the bunch, the flashy colors that this particular audience might be into, the ease of handling, the nostalgia of a smaller phone. For the tech enthusiast, it might be a more difficult pitch. You may be more likely to select something with the Pro designation to get those extended camera features. But nonetheless, options are good, and here now are all of your options. We've got an inventory of videos here that covers absolutely every potential option from Apple in 2020, and then some with the 100 iPhone unboxing video, which, by the way, I probably should get to that giveaway fairly soon. We're gonna do it in a new way this year, ensure that all 100 find a new, happy home. That home could be your home. So good luck to you. I'll be back to you with more news on that very shortly. There it is, all of the iPhone 12 minis and all of the iPhone 12 Pro Max.